Occult Confessions is brought to you commercial-free by the generous support of our patrons. Visit occultconfessions.com and press donate to help keep the history of the occult on the digital airwaves.
Panic struck the Tokyo subway on the 20th of March 1995. Men boarded subway cars with plastic bags and umbrellas, removed the newspaper covering the bags, and punctured them with the sharp tips of the umbrellas, releasing sarin gas, a biological weapon first developed by the Nazis during World War II, and they released this into the underground. 8 of 11 bags were broken open and leaked 159 ounces of liquid sarin onto the cars as they hurtled through the subway system. 12 people were killed. 1,039 were injured, and 4,460 went to the hospital reporting symptoms of exposure. The men who released the gas were members of Aum Shinrikyo, a religious organization founded by Shoko Asahara in 1987, and they were hoping to spark an Armageddon, namely, war between Japan and the United States, according to their gurus' designs. My name is Dr. Robert C. Thompson, joined this day by our metallurgic prophet, Bree Litterall.
Hey, guys.
And Bree, you are somewhat of a closet expert on Aum Shinrikyo, yes?
Yes, I am. In fact, I wrote 2 whole papers about them for you in your class.
Yes, yes. You've been begging to be on this episode for years.
You don't understand my fascination, disgust, and complete interest in this cult. Like, it's wild.
And the Naked Truth, Nikki Double H, Nikki Hiller Henderson, back with Bree again. What's up, Nikki?
Hello, hello.
How are things?
You know what? They're going.
They're going, yeah. Yeah, you're going through some stuff, but we're here to talk about Japanese cults, so.
I've actually heard of this one. I thought I hadn't.
All right, the sarin gas attack.
Yes.
It was a little bit before your time, right? Or no, it was around when you were born.
Well, I mean, that's not when I heard of it, but...
You pop out of the vagina and somebody's like, hey, kid, there was an attack in a Tokyo subway. Just wanted you to know. Welcome to the world. Yep. But, right, you would have been... Were you alive yet? What year were you born?
97.
Oh, yeah, we still had 2 years. So, yeah, it was 2 years before you were born. But they were still kicking around in 97.
They're actually still technically, I'm pretty sure, at least a few years ago around. Technically.
No, we're going to have to disguise our addresses then, because these people are serious.
I mean, my name is not Nikki.
My name is Bree Literal. Come get me.
Wow, 2 very different approaches there.
I don't think they do. They're not into the same stuff, because they don't have good old... I don't even want to call him by his cult name, Rob. I don't think he deserves that, because he's kind of like... Excuse my French, an asswipe of a human being.
You mean Shoko Asahara?
Yeah. His name is actually Chizuo Matsumoto, which is a much less cool name.
Yeah.
So anyway, they don't have him anymore, but so you don't think they're not sending anthrax in the mail or anything?
No, I don't think they do that stuff anymore. Just like that other cult that still exists, that doesn't do anything
Which
anymore.
One?
I can't think of the
So
name.
many.
It was like a big one that there's still like splinter cells off of that.
There's
they don't
so
like.
many.
Oh, Children of God, like that, but they don't
or
do
the
all the gross
Unification
shit anymore.
Church.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Really, they don't do the weird sex stuff anymore. The Children of God.
No. I don't think they do. I think they wouldn't exist if they still did that.
Well,
I
the
mean,
the
there
really
was
weird
this
stuff.
kind of like sanitation of their history and like their rules where they made new rules. If it's what I'm thinking of, they made new rules and then they sent out in like a secret letter, like a letter that's basically like, JK, just like we can't say we do this anymore. Cool.
I mean, the sex among consenting adults is fine. It's when the kids got involved. That's when it got
that's
really
what they were talking about.
pretty awful. Anyway, we're not talking about them today.
I hope we don't ever talk about them.
let's go ahead and pledge it out and talk about Japan. We, the members of the Secret Order of Alchemical Actors, do solemnly commit ourselves to a full and honest telling of the history of the occult as far as we know it. Fantastic. All right, here we go. To Japan. And Bree, you know some of these pronunciations, it feels like, yeah?
Oh, I do, yeah. A few of them.
That's pretty good.
A few of them.
That gives me peace. Well, you can help me out. And if neither of us know, then we'll just do the best we can.
Yeah.
On the 6th of August, 1946, moving back a few decades, the United States, with the consent of the United Kingdom, detonated a nuclear weapon over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, they detonated a second nuclear weapon over the city of Nagasaki. The bombings killed between 100,000 and 230,000 civilians and had long-term consequences for public and environmental health for decades afterward. After an extensive bombing campaign in anticipation of the mainland invasion of Japan, the Allies had given the Japanese the opportunity to end the war, but the Japanese would not surrender. And so, on the 15th of August, just 6 days after the bombing of Nagasaki, the Japanese finally gave up and surrendered to the Allied powers. The day before, the Japanese Emperor Hirohito had broadcast his capitulation announcement over the radio. He said, "The enemy has begun to employ a new and most cruel bomb, the power of which to do damage is indeed incalculable, taking the toll of many innocent lives. Should we continue to fight, not only would it result in an ultimate collapse and obliteration of the Japanese nation, but also it would lead to the total extinction of human civilization." The invention... Yeah, how about that?
That's heavy.
Yeah, Hirohito didn't mess around. The invention of the atomic bomb was one of the most significant and cataclysmic scientific and cultural events of the 20th century and arguably human history writ large. Images of total annihilation loomed in our collective imagination for the first time across the globe, but they were particularly vivid for the Japanese. Visions of doomsday entered Japan's psyche through the direct experience with bombs that leveled whole cities. Another bomb was being prepared for use on the 19th of August, with 6 more in production for the fall. As Hirohito suggested, the Japanese were facing total destruction in a way no culture or civilization had ever seen before. This was the background for pop culture exports like Godzilla, as well as the crop of new religious movements that swept through Japan after the war. During the occupation of Japan following World War II, Shinto was removed as the country's state religion, and Christian missionaries flooded the islands, opening up a new era of religious colonization and exploration. The rise of new religious movements, coupled with Japan's intimate experience of doomsday, formed the background for the Aum Shinrikyo movement. There we go. That's our setup. Any thoughts on
One of the things that gets me about this is that if this all hadn't happened and the emperor wasn't forced to be like, "Sorry guys, I am not God." He literally had to announce, "I am not God." Right. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, it's time to get some new religions after all this." And that's the whole reason that people this idiot
and who is
got
God?
into power. And there was another group that he actually mirrored his stuff after that was a much more innocent cult, still a cult basically, that was formed too. There was a bunch of these groups. It's really interesting to actually read into the more prominent ones that showed up.
So from your perspective, the cult leaders in Japan were sort of subbing in for the loss of the Shinto emperor.
Yeah, so since there wasn't the mandated the state regulated Shinto or whatever, there's a terminology for it, being that the emperor is God. It kind of let this gap for a bunch of people to come flooding into and to manipulate people that were looking for something to believe in because they didn't have anything anymore.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, historically, Japan, back in ancient times, that this was the tradition, that the emperor, that Shinto was the state religion. During the shogunate, it sort of fell apart, in the medieval period, but then they reinstated it, I believe, in the 19th century. So it actually wasn't that long that Shinto was the state religion of Japan, when it came back, 100 years or so, I think, before World War II. So FYI, little Japanese history there. All right, let's get to Bree's favorite person, the guru.
I hope you tell my favorite story about him growing up.
I probably will, but if I don't, you can feel free to add it.
Oh, okay.
So his cult leader name was Shoko Asahara, but he was born, you said this pretty well, Brie, Chitsuo Matsumoto?
Yeah, you've said it the first name better than I could, but yes.
Oh, okay.
I think you're probably more correct than I am. I've heard it as like Chizua.
Oh, you might be right. I like to watch Japanese TV, but it's often dubbed over, so...
Yeah.
Oh, see, I only watch the actual, like, original languages. I don't like dubbing.
What, you with the subtitles?
Yeah, but I usually watch a lot of Korean stuff, so my familiarity with Japanese pronunciation might not be as...
Korean stuff is wildly violent.
But it's really good, a lot of it.
It really can be. The movies can be good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, he was born... Matsumoto was born in 1955, blind in one eye with partial sight in the other. His older and younger brother were both fully blind, and his parents sent him to a school for the blind, even though his partial sight would have qualified him for regular school. He was manipulative and bullying as a child. He took advantage of the other children because he was the one who could see.
Oh.
Yeah, in a school for the blind, having partial sight.
Awful.
Yeah, that makes you king.
It does.
For good or ill. At school, he received good grades and a black belt in judo, but never managed to win election for class president despite running many times. I love that we have all this information.
I'm sorry, when you say black belt in judo, all I can imagine is but with his class for the school for the blind.
Well, yeah, I guess you'd be right.
He's just
yeah.
kicking everyone.
You don't understand how ridiculous this gets in the stories of him being the one person who could kind of see in this school.
Oh my gosh, he's just kicking everyone's butts. It's not fair.
What else do you know about his school days, Bria? That's about all I have to say.
Well, one of my favorite stories has to do with him being a manipulator, and because he was the only one who could see. And this kind of really was able to kickstart his ability to be this hyper bully manipulating force, and he learned, okay, this is how far I can push people to get what I want because they rely on me. If they rely on me, I can get what I want out of it. And so what he would do is, since he was the only one who could even see, the kids would need to go into a town or whatever to get stuff, and he would offer to walk them into town for shoes or a haircut or whatever. And then they would get there, they would do what they needed to do, and the kid would be like, all right, let's go back. And he'd be like, you can pay me and then we can go back, otherwise I'm gonna leave you here.
Oh.
And so they would be forced to pay him to walk him back. And I think part of the reason he probably never got class president, even though he wanted to be prime minister, fun fact,
yes, that's true,
was because everybody was afraid of him. Right? Nobody liked the kid.
Yeah, you're not going to vote for that guy. Although sometimes in the United States, we vote for people who are kind of like the class bully, don't we?
It's true, but I guess in a school of the blind, when everybody else is being manipulated and bullied by the one individual who's running, you're not going to vote for him, right? You're not going to give him more power.
This guy, he takes your lunch money and he kicks your butt in judo and you can't see him coming. He just sucks all around.
If you can't pay him to take you back, he leaves you there.
Oh my God.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm.
At the age of 20, he became a masseuse, which was a common occupation for the blind in Japan, and an acupuncturist in Kumamoto. So that makes sense. He'd be a masseuse.
Mm-hmm.
He moved to Tokyo and met and married. So let me just reflect on that for a second. I don't want to pick on blind people, but if there are a couple of advantages, right? So theoretically, you don't need to see to be able to give a good massage, but also, people are naked. I don't think I don't know if the Japanese care about that. They have the baths, maybe. I know Korea, they have the baths, but
see, I always thought about it as since it's such a spiritual culture, I always thought that if you're blind, it kind of puts you in a more sensory place, so you can feel for things more. That's also why a lot of acupuncturists are blind there too.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. That's you're, I don't know, more in tune to your senses, so you understand other people's senses better, I think is the assumption.
Through feel, through touch.
Okay. I That still scares me a little.
That's terrifying. I can't imagine somebody putting a bunch of needles in my body while they're blind, but...
I mean, if they could see, I wouldn't let them.
Same.
Either.
Same.
But,
No, I agree with
so
you,
it's
Nikki.
like an extra. I was like...
I agree.
So just no acupuncture for this group.
No.
Fair enough. Blind or not. We're not discriminating.
Nope.
We're saying
No, it's the acupuncture we don't like.
It's the needles in
The
my
needles.
body for no reason other than to stay there for a few minutes. No.
actually a Chinese practice, so that would have been imported. Anyhow, he moved to Tokyo and met and married Tomoko Ishii. Yeah, you feeling all right with that, Brie?
Yeah.
With whom he would have 6 children. In 1981, he joined Gonshu, a new religion founded in 1954 by Seiyu Kiriyama. Gonshu was a form of Buddhism incorporating fire rituals. Kiriyama received a holy relic of the Buddha, the leader that is, from the president of Sri Lanka, which helped to spread his fame. And the movement grew to 500,000 members, including the young, soon-to-be founder of Aum Shinrikyo. It's sort of a fun little story, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
See, guy goes to Sri Lanka, gets this Buddha artifact, and people are like, oh, we want to join that guy. He's got an artifact.
Yeah. It's all it takes, Rob.
Whatever works. Yeah, we need to get an artifact, don't we?
We need an artifact.
That's what
Ooh.
we're missing.
Yes. What do you got up there in Canada, Nikki? Any artifacts we can have? Probably not.
Like some old crime scene tape.
Is it a famous crime?
No.
Just
But
like
it's just like there's just lots of it around.
just a guy got beat up on your stairwell and
There's just so much crime that we can just snag some tape.
I'm not kidding. I just saw someone like on a tree branch, like out on my walk. Just,
what
like,
happened on
someone,
that
like,
branch?
No, people just like the
Oh, you decorate with it.
Police here suck and they never clean up. Like you can see there's like gloves, like those like blue plastic or like gloves
Oh my
Mhm.
god.
left, and like evidence bags, empty ones left behind, and like caution tape everywhere, like police line do not cross stuff. They're just really lazy.
You know, you could like cosplay one night though. You could have a fun time. You could
Oh my god, please, Nikki, do not touch any of it. Do not
Put
put
your
any of
gloves
that on your
on.
body.
be like go up to your roommate and be like, "Hey, let's play crime scene tonight." I
Oh
think
my god.
that'd be a good time.
I get arrested because my DNA is left on crime scene tape I was touching out in the...
Oh no, in my imagination, you have evidence bags, you have gloves, you have the whole 9 yards. You've collected everything.
That is my
No.
concern.
That's it. I'm coming to Winnipeg. We're playing crime scene.
Oh my god.
He
You don't play crime scene in Winnipeg. You walk into the wrong area and you're in a crime scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not as much fun.
No.
He
Someone got shot 5 times at the end of my street.
Are
Oh,
you serious,
no.
Nikki?
Yes, right outside my parking lot. Like I could see from my window the crime scene.
You got to get out of there, man.
You do.
That's what my girlfriend says too.
Listen to your girlfriend, Nikki.
Time's a coming. After joining Agonshu, Asahara became increasingly interested in Indian source material and also began studying the writing of Nostradamus, which is sort of an odd combination, but okay, reading the Vedas, reading Nostradamus. Nostradamus had predicted the end of the world at the end of the 20th century, and his work had become increasingly popular with the Japanese converts to new religions. Nostradamus was all over like those weird, like weekly world news kind of scandal sheets when I was growing up. It was all about how Nostradamus was predicting the end of the world through the 80s and the 90s. So I'm feeling that scene.
Well, part of this has to do with like a magazine that he used to get nerds into his cult.
Yes, he created his own
Yeah,
zine.
he did.
Well, it was the 90s.
It's called, but yeah.
80s, you create a zine. It was what we did back in the day. I was not old enough to do that, but yeah, you put on your flannel shirt and play your Nirvana and work on your zine.
Wow, that's actually, if like come full circle, that could just be like something a teenager would be up to today.
It could
Just
be
right
anybody, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they'd be doing like a blog or something, but it's about the same idea. Or a podcast. So anyway, Nostradamus predicted the end of the world, end of the 20th century. Japanese are getting all interested in that. So Asahara opened a Chinese herbal medicine shop, and he was arrested in 1982 for selling fake Chinese herbal medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know how you even do that. And then he went on to open a yoga school. And then in 84, he founded Aum Shinsen no Kai. Does that sound right, Bree?
That sounds pretty...
It translates to the Aum Circle of Divine Hermits.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear what Aum Shinrikyo is.
He rose to fame in 85 when the popular New Age magazine Twilight Zone published a photograph of him levitating.
Oh my
gosh. Levitating, quote unquote.
Oh my gosh.
Well done.
Oh.
What?
Wait,
What?
I just feel like I've seen that photo before. It's nothing that dramatic.
You very well could have. It's a really famous photo.
Yeah.
That year, wandering on the shores of northern Japan, a god appeared to him. A god, and remember Shinto. There are a variety of what are they called? This is going to kill me. Kimi.
Why did I go to Hinduism? I know.
It's kami. There are a variety of kami.
Yes.
There it is. A variety of kami, so could be anybody. A god appeared to him and ordained him the god of light, who leads armies of the gods, which feels more Hindu.
Well, that's the thing, is that literally he says, screw this, and then uses Hindu with a mix of Judeo-Christian later on in his cult for his beliefs in armageddon.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of Japanese culture in it.
No,
ultimately.
not at all. It's
Japanese
all about
religion
Shiva and the end of days.
So he went on to label the god Shiva, this god who had approached him on the beach.
So, okay. I know this already, but it just sounds ridiculous hearing you say it, Rob. I don't know why.
I have that power. In 1986, he achieved his final enlightenment after 4 or 5 days of meditation in the Himalayas, which are sacred to the Indians. So a lot of this is very Hindu in flavor. All right, so let's get to the religion. You ready for the religion, Nikki? What they believe?
Oh, probably not.
Oh, I don't think any of you are ready for this.
Saddle up. Within Aum Shinrikyo, he came to be called Sonshi, or revered master, and he took mistresses from among Aum members while preaching celibacy for pretty much everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
That's how it
shocking,
goes.
Revolutionary, never been done by a cult before.
Yeah, it's very there's a lot of Indian gurus, right? There's a number of, anyhow. Sounds like Nexium, all this sort of
It's like
stuff.
any cult.
It's any cult.
Not our cult, Nikki. I let you guys have sex with whoever you want.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyhow, it's not my business. In fact, I encourage it. Okay, so his advanced spiritual ability allowed him to partake in any manner of not practicing what he preached that he wanted to. So he's just like, because I'm so ascended, I don't need to, do all this other stuff I'm telling you guys to do. Oh boy. Aum involved both casual participants and far more serious shuke, or renunciates. Is that right, Brie? Shuke?
Yeah, I think so.
In 1989, there were about 200 renunciants. So you got that, Nikki. So there's like all these random people in it. Like thousands of people are members of Aum Shinrikyo, but then very special ones, he drafts them or they volunteer to be renunciates. I think generally he's gonna somebody's gonna come up to you and say, we want you to join the inner circle.
Okay, I was gonna say that's like his inner group.
But mind you, to get in the first place, you have to pay a fee, and there's different fees you can pay to get different levels from the get-go.
Of course.
And if you pay, I think it's $2,000, not only do you get to be super close to his inner circle, but you get I forget what the amount is, but
a free
bunch
t-shirt?
No, it's even better than that, Nikki. No, it's much better.
Speaking of which, have I sent you a t-shirt, Nikki?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right.
Oh, but Nikki, wouldn't you much rather have, I forget what the amount is, but a specific amount of Rob's dirty bathwater?
Yes. Yes.
Because
Dang,
that's what you can get
um...
from Shoko Asahara if you
it's
pay $2,000.
Her bathwater. She just took it from history.
I would only send you clean bath water that I was planning on bathing in.
For $2,000.
About there. So
that's just one of them. That's just.
Oh my gosh.
So, but being a renunciant was not just a matter of like Bree's saying, it did involve giving all of your stuff to him, but it was a different lifestyle than the rest of the cult. That they were hardcore members. So by 1989. There were 200 renunciants. That grew to a couple thousand by the height of the movement's popularity. So the word shuke means leaving home, and it involved members giving all their worldly possessions to the organization, as we're saying, and engaging in severe asceticism, including celibacy, long meditations, breathing exercises, intense prostrations, work assignments, and severely reduced sleep.
And food consumption.
What was that? What
So that's like you bow down.
Mm-hmm.
You would do that intensely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess you just lay there for a long period of time, or I don't know, maybe you do it a whole bunch.
I think this is the group of people that also basically like once a day got to eat a bowl of like vegetable broth.
And that's
their meal.
It's a little like the Hindu ascetics or the self-flagellators, the Catholic self-flagellators. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they became beyond the reach of the world they occupied as the person they were before. That was the point of it. They would leave no trace for friends and family to contact them. They participated in medicated psychotropic initiations. What? Involving LSD? What's the funny part of this? Narcotics and barbiturates. Because they're starving? Is that why?
It's funny to me because, like, a lot of the times, it's not funny. This is not funny. This is actually probably really scary. But a lot of the times, it'd be like you're sitting down for a cup of tea with the dude, and it's just like you start tripping because you don't know that you have taken LSD or whatever other not psychotics, psychedelics. And he's just like, no, it's cool. Your master is here to guide you. Like, it's fucked up. Oh, sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, your sister says it all the time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If they fell short and sinned in the eyes of the organization and the guru, they could be subjected to harsh immersions in hot or cold water, hanging by the feet for hours, or solitary confinement for days. If you guys piss me off, I'd just make you listen to me talk for a little while.
Which is delightful. It's honestly not a punishment, Rob.
See, can't punish Bree. That's pretty much how I punish my kid. She's bad, and I like bring her to like a corner, and I just stand there with her, and she like has to discuss with me whatever's on my mind. Well, yeah.
Or what you want to talk about?
What I feel like at that moment, yeah. At the core of the organization were individuals who embraced Vajrayana, or the diamond vehicle path within Tantric Buddhism, which we talked about in our Tantra episode. Certain variants of Vajrayana and the path embraced by Asahara involved attempting to visualize the self as the deity, also a kind of erasure of the ego. So you tried to sort of like become God in your mind, or a god. In Aum Shinrikyo, this meant a transformation of the initiate into the guru through, in part, listening to the sound of Asahara's brainwaves through headphones, drinking his blood, which was supposed to have unique DNA, and then, of course, the bathwater thing. So, yeah, you wanted to be him.
Which sometimes meant consuming parts of him that you don't want to ever consume from anybody, I hope.
Yeah, so that's the diamond vehicle. That's sort of how he took the diamond vehicle idea and ported it over to his situation.
Made it gross.
Yeah, because you're not trying to become, Vishnu or Kali or anything. Now you're trying to become this man.
Just this asshole.
This
trying
guy.
To be good old
this dude.
Shizuo Matsumoto.
Right. This over here. These scientists also... Oh, sorry. What was I talking about? So it was his scientists. He had scientists working for him who were in the cult, and they were the ones who were developing the technology to do this stuff, to have the brainwaves and stuff. So they record his brainwaves, and then you would listen to them. And they developed an astral teleporter, which translated the guru's mantras into electrical signals, And they would go on to create the weapons and counterweapons used in Aum Shinrikyo's murderous attacks. So the scientists of Aum Shinrikyo are extremely important, big figures in this story. And we've just met them because they created these weird headphones, but they're going to do much worse stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't want to pick on scientists because some of my very good friends are scientists, but science does not make you immune to believing bullshit.
No, not at all.
Being super good at science does not prevent you from being drafted into a cult.
Oh, no.
So,
Or into doing a bunch of horrible things that could be considered war crimes that started this in the first place.
oh yeah, the scientists are probably
Sorry.
short of Asahara himself. The
Yes.
scientists are probably the worst of the bunch,
Because, they created with this turn...
and they knew what they were doing. It's not like
They did.
Einstein, whose theory of relativity just incidentally was used to create the atomic bomb. These guys intentionally were developing weapons that they knew he was going to use against regular people.
Exactly.
So, core members were organized into a series of ministries and agencies designed to serve as the replacement for the Japanese government after Doomsday arrived and wiped civilization away. So he created his own little government. All these little bureaucracies. So he's big time. He's got a lot of people underneath of him at this point. It's going well. Aum Shinrikyo spent about $700,000 on renting airtime from a Russian radio station, which was then broadcast to Japan, and leased Russian television time to make videos for recruiting back home. Japan and Russia are close to each other. For those of you who do not know, they basically border each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, yep. There's some disputed territory. There can be disputed territory between Japan and Russia. It was the plot of the latest James Bond.
The more you know. I didn't know the James Bond part.
Yeah.
No.
Daniel Craig's last movie, which as James Bond, there was a little island that Rami Malek lived on that was in disputed territory between Japan and Russia.
All right.
But historically, the Russians and the Japanese have had wars with each other. So anyhow. In summer 1994, they performed a live musical at their Battle Cry Cultural Festival about the group's achievements and plans.
Oh my gosh, when are we going to make our musical based on Occult Confessions' achievements and plans?
It sort of makes me think of Gilles de Rais, who staged that elaborate Joan of Arc musical.
God.
Remember that?
You're not wrong.
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind is this. Yeah, he's this crazy guy putting all his money into this bizarre Battle Cry Cultural Festival. Although many of the organization's members were middle-aged, Asahara appealed to more college students and young graduates than most other Japanese new religious movements. These people were, much like participants in the New Age in the U.S., drawn to alternative religion at the margins of the mainstream. Aum Shinrikyo also had a particular appeal for doctors, scientists, and engineers. Since Asahara often couched his claims in scientific terms, he knew how to pull them in.
He was brilliant at math, too. Like, this kid, when he was a kid, if he hadn't been so set on being a manipulative piece of crap and wanting to be the prime minister, he could have been a brilliant, mathematician. He could have done anything. It's insane how smart this guy is.
This just proves my point that you should never trust someone who is too good at math, because math doesn't make sense.
I think as we go through this whole series on dangerous cults, Bree, I think we're often going to have this feeling of, oh man, if only that guy would have just done something productive with his time, he could have really done something cool, but instead, this.
Well, you can say the same thing of James Jones, but he did do something productive with his time. He was a civil rights advocate, and then look what happened to him.
Yeah.
He was doing really good stuff, and then he said, methamphetamines much?
Yeah, I think I'd rather do meth.
Yeah, the old ego. So, they also, by the way, recruited young teenagers who quickly vanished into the ranks of the renunciates, which did not make their parents extremely happy.
No.
Rob, have you seen the anime that they made?
No, I have not.
Oh, yeah, one of their advertisement campaigns was an anime. That's why they're known as the anime cult. I think you can still find it on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I have to find that.
Yes, we'll have to check that out.
I think it still exists, because I remember when I was writing your paper, I actually found it, and I watched it. It's weird.
Wild.
It is weird.
Be careful when you're searching Aum Shinrikyo commercial, because you may end up on a watch list, but listeners, please enjoy.
That's true. You might, but at least you're on one for the right reasons.
Right, yeah, for occult confessions. So you did it for the movement. So the organization amassed vast stores of money through renunciates, donations. Remember, these people are giving all their stuff to the cult, but also through the sale of religious objects meant to bring the initiate closer to the guru. So that you could also, buy the bathwater. To rent the headset with his brainwaves for a month or drink his blood costs $10,000, translating it from yen. The organization also sold computers, weird, and undercut competitors.
Okay.
They had a bunch of computer nerds in the cult, like computer nerds, gaming nerds, anime nerds. All those people were there. They're all smart.
It's the 90s, so,
Yeah.
Selling these big desktop computers was a thing. Like, that was a job that you could do. You didn't have to be one of them guys at Best Buy. You could just do that from your house. But here's the thing, Nikki. They undercut their competitors since renunciate labor kept costs low because renunciates
Weren't getting paid.
They only got paid apparently in vegetable broth, so
Yep.
can't compete. They ran noodle shops and restaurants, a fitness club, childcare service, dating service, and travel agencies. I love the dating service.
All of the things they can't do.
Well, they did
Yeah.
them, and they made a ton of money, Nikki.
No, but I mean, like, they can't travel, like, away from their cult if they're, like, you know what I mean? Like, they
Right.
can't.
Oh,
They-
the things that they personally can't do.
date.
They can't have sex,
They can't
no
have
children,
They can't, you know what I mean?
can't
So,
eat
like,
noodles. Yeah.
right? They're doing all
They
this
can't
stuff.
eat noodles.
Right.
No, they just
I
get
just put
vegetable
that
broth.
together, Rob, and I don't know why.
They're
And
running
they
noodle
work at
shops.
they work at a noodle shop and they just get the bone broth.
They get the
Right.
broth.
That's it. I bet they could do fitness though. The fitness club, I bet that's cool.
Oh, they
can-
all have to be able to do yoga so they can.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, they can't. Only Asahara can be the one to propel his ass into the air so he looks like he's levitating.
no levitating, but they can totally bend around.
They can be real flexible.
Aum Shinrikyo's headquarters was in Fujinomiya, near Mount Fuji. Yeah, does that sound right, Brie?
Yeah.
There were 20 additional facilities around Tokyo, Yokohama, and urban areas around Honshu. They had a 3-story facility for developing chemical and biological weapons. 3 stories.
Oh no.
It's a lot of
That's a lot of-
sarin.
That's a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
this is like a corporation, like a big corporation. Sarin was ultimately made in one of these buildings. They also had additional labs for working with botulins and anthrax. Botulinus, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So biological weapons and chemical weapons. There was a place for manufacturing Russian AK-47s.
Real specific on that one.
Well, I mean, it's handy. You buy the parts from Russia and put them together. And
Yeah.
The Astral Hospital Institute for Medical Care.
What?
It was also used for drugging and murdering apostate members and their and enemies of the cult.
Yes.
Nikki, so.
That sounds more like that
There
than
you
a
go,
hospital, absolutely.
Well, it's
That
an
makes sense.
astral hospital for your astrals.
That sounds like you're going to walk in there and they're going to kill you immediately and then try to tend to your astral spirit.
Yeah, you might get an enema first. At the hospital, patients who were non-followers would be pressured to make donations in order to cure their illness on the premise that giving precipitated healing. Doctors would also remove fingerprints and alter facial features to prevent the police from apprehending members. Some members also died as a result of the rigors of being a renunciate, and this would often happen in their own medical facilities. Likely, Aum Shinrikyo's first death happened this way, and they resorted to murder when one of the victim's friends, a person named Shuji Taguchi, threatened to leave the group. The group was particularly sensitive to bad publicity right then because they were about to receive official recognition as a religion from the Japanese government, and the organization killed lawyers who targeted them in court. They killed apostate members, and eventually they just killed complete strangers, which is how we started the episode. On the 23rd of April 1995, Hideo Murai, the scientist most responsible for developing the weapons involved in the sarin attack, was knifed to death on the steps of Aum Shinrikyo's Tokyo headquarters by a hitman from the Yakuza, a hit that was likely ordered by the guru himself, or perhaps one of his lieutenants, because Murai, while incredibly loyal, had been talking to the press too much following the sarin gas attacks. The total list of individuals the group murdered numbered around 80. Do you have a different number, Bree, or does that sound okay?
I think 80 sounds correct just because they weren't fully successful with their actual thing.
Yeah, and we're leaving off the gas attacks, right?
Yeah, so I think 80 sounds about right.
Yeah. That's crazy, though.
It's definitely not less than 80.
That's organized crime.
Yeah, they're basically an organized crime group. Like, they're not even a cult, really, at this point. They're, like, bordering on to organized crime and a terrorist group. They are a terrorist group.
Yeah, but I was also gonna say, I don't know, maybe this is too controversial. It sounds a little American government-y. Yeah, people dying out of the blue. You speak out, you get killed. You speak out, you...
That's a very Canadian sentiment, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, Nikki. Yeah.
So you're thinking about, like, the CIA?
It's just whenever there's people in power and they almost always do really bad stuff. And they would rather kill anyone who got in their way than face up to that really bad stuff. And I feel like that's a villain trope that's, like, actually scarily accurate.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair, too. Especially with the idea of hiring this man to make your weapons and then killing the man because you don't want him to say that you made the weapons.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I've made the point on the show that when you talk about presidential power, I mean, these are people who directly or indirectly kill people. They order drone strikes and, civilians and all that sort of stuff. And it's just a nature of the work that this is what they do. But it's pretty troubling.
Yeah.
The religious doctrine for murder centered on Poa. Poa generally meant disciplined meditation in the presence of a guru, but it took on a darker meaning for Aum Shinrikyo, becoming an act of homicide at the guru's request. Poa essentially meant taking an individual's bad karma onto oneself by killing them.
But that's a lose-lose situation. Why would you want to do that?
Because you, Nikki, if you're a good member, have the spiritual strength to take it on.
Yep.
Why wouldn't I just let that person live with their bad karma?
No, Nikki. No.
Because you're being a spiritual warrior and you're helping them out.
You gotta fight that otherworldly fight.
When you put it that way.
Yeah. Be a trooper. The guru took bad karma onto himself when he ordered a killing, as did the assassin in many cases. Sometimes when the guru requested a killing or the development of some bizarre weapon or counterweapon, disciples would rationalize it as a Mahamudra or guru challenge. He's just challenging us to create a deadly weapon that will kill thousands.
He's not gonna do it.
No, it's just he's challenging our soul. Believe, like when I send you guys bathwater that I haven't used yet. You don't know what to do with it. I just send it to you without any notes. There's no instructions.
It's up to us to spiritually find what we need to do with it.
With that unused potential bathwater. Believers approached murder with a sacred, carefree mind, attempting to kill, but not caring if they were killed in the process. As the date of the Tokyo subway attacks drew closer, Asahara began to preach about the accumulation of bad karma among the general population. He warned that if members did not protect Aum Shinrikyo against persecutors at all costs, they risked having the truth revealed by Asahara purged from the earth. So that's the other thing. It's got this millenarian Armageddon feel to it. We have to preserve the teachings. If we don't preserve the teachings by, killing our enemies, then it's on us.
Well, and culturally, with the whole loss of empire and emperor. There we go, not empire.
Well, empire too, equally so.
that set the tone for everybody to be like, well, now we have this. If you're in it and you're like, now I have this, I don't want to lose this.
Yeah. There's a desperation there.
There's a point where I don't know, because there's a point with every cult leader where they either believe too hard in what they're doing and they get lost, or they just throw away what they've been preaching to everybody, whether they believe it or not. And I don't know where the point is for him where the Harumageddon just kind of like gets thrown out, and it's just kind of like we just have to trigger everybody dying. Like it's on us to take everybody's karma, quote unquote. It's just him trying to be a controlling ass.
Let's see if we can find that point, Brie. Let's talk about the attack itself. Aum Shinrikyo's Armageddon was a blend of Eastern and Western sources, as Brie was talking about. Nostradamus and the revelations of St. John were joined to Hindu and Buddhist end times predictions, like the description of the Kali Yuga, the last eon or epic in Hindu culture. Asahara also added a dash of Japanese popular culture, namely the animated television show The Voyage of the Space Battleship Yamato, which sorry, you have to laugh, but it's all very dark. It was it's what? Go ahead.
It's just so absurd. That's why I laugh sometimes when I say these things, because it's just such an absurd concept. I can't comprehend how it got so dark.
We're not making light. This is a horrible thing that happened, but it is so ridiculous. Yeah. Anyhow. About a post-nuclear... So this was a TV show. It was an animated TV show, Saturday morning cartoon, about a post-nuclear Holocaust world and a brave crew of astronauts who ventures out to recover a Cosmo cleaner that will mitigate Earth's nuclear pollution. So they're going out into space to bring back this cosmic vacuum. So this is part of his theory, that this exists. And then there was a bit of Western conspiracy theory with the Jews and the Freemasons, just for good measure, working toward their own apocalypse in contrast to Asahara's apocalypse, which was somehow the better of the two apocalypses. So he had to get to his apocalypse before those Jews and Freemasons pulled off theirs over in America and Canada.
My goodness.
Asahara was paranoid about counterattacks and kept a device developed by his team of scientists for countering chemical and biological attacks in his family's apartment. He believed that the United States government, the Japanese government, rival religious groups like Soka Gakkai and the Crown Princess Masako could all potentially be out to get him.
I would believe that, honestly, you wouldn't even have to know this guy to not like him. I believe he has a very long list of enemies. He probably should be paranoid.
Why stop at the Crown Princess? Yeah, what about the Crown Prince? What about...
Yeah.
There's so many people.
What did you do to the Crown Princess?
Right? Who knows? Do you know, Brie, why the Crown Princess? You have any idea?
That wasn't the point of my paper, Rob, so I don't know.
Such a bizarre
new
detail.
Paper concept, Brie. I need you to find why he thought
she would be mad at him.
Well, I think he just was at the point where every cult leader gets really crazed and they think really random, seemingly high-powered people are out to get them. Jim Jones did the same thing. I think they all just do.
Yeah.
The Tokyo subway attack was not their first attempt to deploy biological and chemical weapons in Japan. Asahara fantasized about a variety of weapons of mass destruction. Building on Nikolai Tesla's unrealized vision of conveying electrical currents through the ground, Asahara talked to his scientists about discovering a way to create and transmit a 10 trillion volt charge. If this hadn't happened decades before we started this show, I'd be sweating a little bit, like that I accidentally inspired this person, because so many of our topics are in his stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Tesla, India, he's just drawing from all these sources. He's very occult, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that just pulls things that sound good from things that exist in the world. I was
gonna say, it's also just like whatever fits his agenda. He's like, I'll take that and I'll take that. That sounds like something I like. Thank you. Yeah. I can use that against people. Thank you. It's
the conspiracy theorist and the apocalyptic. That's always going hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Asahara was also interested in developing a plasma and a laser gun.
Oh my
which is tangentially related to Tesla's research, Aum Shinrikyo members broke into 2 laser laboratories in Japan and purchased a $500,000 laser system from a company in California.
Oh, wow.
Just sold it to them, no biggie. Members met in Moscow. Come on, California. Members met in Moscow with Nobel winner Nikolai Basov, whose research focused on lasers. So, I mean, these were serious guys.
Yeah.
They could get a Nobel Prize winner to sit down and have tea with them. Keith Raniere met the Dalai Lama, the Nexium guy. These people, they're con men. They're high-level con men. And you're right, yeah, they collect a lot of money, Nikki, and then they're just good at talking themselves into these bizarre places. I mean, right, Brie? Isn't that what's happening with these?
That's basically
like a Nobel
how
Prize
it
winner?
goes. And I feel like, hold on a second. I feel like I think that he might have also met the Dalai Lama, actually.
Really? Well, I mean, it would have been handy, I suppose. Are you Googling it?
I'm pretty sure he did.
He met the Dalai Lama?
Yep, he met the Dalai Lama.
When do we get to meet the Dalai Lama?
I was going to say, if you looked up a list of celebrities, though, who have met the Dalai Lama...
Yeah, he gets around, that Dalai Lama.
It's probably a lot, and like that's why I'm like, it's money.
We need to get on this Dalai Lama thing.
We just need to have
a lot more money.
$1 billion compound, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get there one patron at a time. Patrons, it's up to you.
Please support us on Patreon so we can find our own cult compound.
Help us build our compound.
And then we can meet the Dalai Lama.
Yes.
The Naked Truth and the Metallurgic Prophet and the Supreme Hierophant sit down with the Dalai Lama.
What a time.
What a day that will be. Okay, so when we're talking about a plasma gun, Asahara means microwave radiation, which he hoped to be able to use to irradiate or juice people without irradiating property. This comes back to Hiroshima. What he wanted to do was create a kind of nuclear holocaust without all the residual fallout and poisoning so that he could just take over the space.
Oh, he didn't want to have to live in the mess he made.
No, he wanted to be greedy about it.
Just kill the people, and which is also kind of the plot of the latest James Bond movie. He predicted that... sorry. He predicted that the United States would strike Japan with atomic and hydrogen bombs in 1996, and World War III would commence a decade later in 2006. Japan would suffer horribly at the hands of the United States in the coming war as a way to cleanse its karma for the future. In Australia, Aum Shinrikyo purchased a large sheep ranch where they... so ridiculous. Where they sought uranium deposits to construct a nuclear warhead. There are currently 3 functioning uranium mines in Australia, just so you know, where the government is concerned about too much mining, compromising groundwater. West Australia is home to a series of near-surface uranium deposits, some as close as 15 meters to the surface. And I want to thank our Discord listeners for that information.
That's insane.
An Aum Shinrikyo team did succeed in pulling small amounts of uranium from the rock and set up a laboratory, but Australian authorities became suspicious, prompting the organization to shut down the operation and sell the land. Yeah.
The more that I hear about this and the more I rehear and, relearn stuff, the more that I remember that if he hadn't gotten so greedy, these guys could have been successful.
Oh, yeah, they could have built a bomb.
Everything that they wanted to do.
Yeah, if they were a little bit smarter, they could have got... I mean, they had the right ideas, but they were just... I think you're right.
He's the ego.
Greed.
He's so smart, and then the ego gets him.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets it all the time, and he puts a hard date on something, and it's just...
Yeah, that hard date...
It's every time. Every time they put a hard date on something.
If we had said, the podcast is going to have 10,000 listeners by, year 2, or we're going to quit, well, then we wouldn't be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We may have, actually, at that point. But anyhow, you can't do that. You got to play the long game. You got to play the long game when you're trying to destroy the world.
Well, with cults, too, they'll say, this date is the end of the world, and then it comes and goes, and you're inevitably going to lose a few followers, even.
Right.
Well, that's why Jim Jones was so smart, is because...
Oh, he didn't.
He didn't do that. He was smart about it, but then the meth got to him. So.
God dang it!
Always the meth. They attempted to release.
That cult just oh my gosh, no, nothing has ever been so upsetting than
It's-
like what I learned would happen. Anyway,
Oh,
With Jim
sure.
Jones?
Jim Jones
Yeah.
is one of the biggest tragedies that's ever
Am I
happened
not
in terms of a cult.
Are we not killing thousands of people in Japan right now? What is that? I don't know. What more can I do for you?
Well,
That was like a few hundred people. All right, I'm going to continue with the list of horrible things this guy did.
I just think the circumstances are what changed the mood of them a bit.
All right,
he
I understand.
you know, that there was a good intention somewhere, unlike this guy who just like he seems like he just always wanted to kill people. Like he got into a school where everyone was blind and he was like, you know what would be easy? Murder.
So you guys are into the tragic hero of Jim Jones as opposed to...
It's not even the tragic hero thing. With the Jim Jones thing, it's just like...
Tragic anti-hero.
It feels like it was so... There was so much heart in it. Whereas with Aum Shinrikyo, it feels so much more institutional and methodical,
capitalistic,
and
more cold,
terroristy.
I
It doesn't feel as like a heartfelt group got rotted from the inside and were murdered and committed suicide all at once and forced to commit suicide. Like it doesn't. It just rings like a different type, pulls a different string of the heart, I guess is what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha.
It still sucks either way, but...
Speaking of which, they attempted to release botulinus toxin from trucks in the middle of the city near American naval installations and at the Narita airport, but the toxin failed to produce any results. They tried to spray botulinus again in 1993 in the neighborhood of Prince Naruhito's wedding. Their failures with... Maybe that's why the crown princess was annoyed with them. Their failures with botulinus came back to the fact that they failed to isolate and then weaponize a strain of the toxin. They just
thank God for that.
Yeah.
They just randomly put it out there? Like...
Yeah, their biologists were not fantastic. In 92, Asahara traveled with some followers to Africa during the Ebola outbreak to help, they said, but they were suspicious, or there were suspicions, I should say, that they were attempting to collect Ebola samples to bring home and weaponize.
I am not surprised.
Yeah.
Horrible. They began producing sarin in 93 and in 94 using information gathered from their contacts in Russia, as well as manuals available in the United States. In 1993. Yeah, we got freedom.
I feel like never in an episode have I made so many just like noises before.
The U.S. does. We got this whole freedom thing when
Rob,
it comes to...
do you have any insight as to... Like, I know there was a lot of modes that they tried to do his mass killing in, but do you know why they were so, like... They were real set on biological warfare? Was it just availability to it?
Yeah, sarin ended up being the way they went, which was chemical.
Yeah,
and they were open to nuclear. Like... It was easier. I think you've got the right idea, Bree. The man was in a rush.
Okay.
So nuclear war, he could have probably maybe worked around to, but there's a lot of opportunity for failure, and it takes a lot of time to build a warhead. Just ask the Iranians.
Yeah.
So, but chemical and biological weapons are just easier to produce. So
he was just impatient and chose the easier option.
I think so. Well, he was rushing against Nostradamus. I mean, it was 1994, 95, 96. We're running out of years before...
He put that hard line because he said, yes, Nostradamus said a man from the east will come. That is me.
Yep. In 93, they attempted to assassinate Daisaku Ikeda, leader of the rival religious organization Soka Gakkai. They were scared off on the first attempt, and on the second, crashed the radio-controlled helicopter drone involved in the attack. In 94, the attorney Taro Takimoto, who was assisting Aum victims in court, suffered symptoms of nerve agent exposure when Aum members released sarin into the ventilator system and onto the windshield of his car while it sat outside the Kofu district. Yep, just sitting outside of a courthouse, they did this. That summer, they attacked 3 judges presiding over a fraud case involving the organization. They released the gas in Matsumoto using a van equipped with a heating pot to vaporize sarin and a fan. The 3 judges were hearing the case, a case that had been brought against Aum Shinrikyo. The judges, as well as several hundred people, were sickened, and 7 people died. So... already these sort of like innocent people are getting caught up in it. Well, we haven't gotten to the subway yet. These are just their experiments. I mean, they're targeted experiments, but still.
They're testing.
Yeah.
That's how terrorist groups do it.
In the fall, they released phosgene gas to the mail slot of a journalist. That journalist had accused them of kidnapping and murdered 20 dissidents using a nerve agent called VX. So they did that as well.
Oh.
People who quit, that is to say. The 95 attack was in response to increasing police pressure on the organization. Aum Shinrikyo had learned of impending police raids on their facilities, and they were hoping to use the attack to create a diversion, presumably by blaming some other group for the sarin. Had they gotten away with the subway attack, they would have followed it up in November with a second release of sarin involving an Mi-17 helicopter they had purchased from the Russians. This has a bit of a Manson feel to it. We're going to kill these guys while those guys are in jail.
And then they'll think that they did it because we couldn't have. And
Yeah.
But just on a much larger scale.
And a much more thought out scale.
Oh, yeah. With far more resources. Mm-hmm. So only in broad outline is it Manson-y. Although the helicopter was never realized, March did not mark the end of Aum Shinrikyo's campaign of terror on Tokyo subways. In May, 2 vinyl bags were discovered in the men's bathroom in Shinjuku subway station. One was on fire, and the pair contained ingredients to produce hydrogen cyanide. So the idea was that if you got both of them to catch fire, that the chemicals would combine, and then we'd have the chemical reaction for the weapon. So they're in 2 separate bags, the ingredients. In July, 2 pink bags were found in the women's bathroom of the Kayabacho station, again containing the ingredients, which, when combined...
No, I'm sorry, it's not funny. It's just that, because it's in the girls' bathroom, they put them in pink bags.
Oh, yeah. They didn't want anybody to catch on.
Yeah, because that's going to make them not notice 2 bags full of chemical compounds. Is the change of color. Oh, I'm sorry, this is different. A lady did this time. I get it, Nikki.
This must be the women's room.
It's just, this is so absurd and horrible, but absurd. But...
So again, with the combination, we would have gotten a deadly weapon. On the 20th of March 1998, the 3rd anniversary of the sarin incident, authorities discovered 3 beer cans in a bathroom of the Kasu Migaseki station containing a chlorine-like liquid. So that's 3 years after the attack. I mean, the attack certainly, brought down this huge organization, but there were sort of like these little guerrilla splinters that persisted well past the time of the sarin gas attack. And you're saying, Bree, that they're still out there. There are some members.
I think there's still some sort of grouping of them, but I think it's more like his original teachings when it comes to the trying to mimic Hindu weird practices and meditation and yoga and stuff. I think it's that type of thing. I could be wrong, though. I don't know.
That sounds about right. In many ways, Aum Shinrikyo represents the toxic end of an ascetic, world-renouncing spiritual path. The dissolution of the ego into another and the destruction of the world in the name of spiritual enlightenment. Tradition holds that the Buddha attempted an ascetic path himself, but discovered that it was too extreme and not the way to accomplish enlightenment. Only after he had nourished himself and gotten back his health was he able to sit and meditate for 40 days and 40 nights under the Bodhi tree and discover the truth. The Buddha, like all great religious teachers, emphasized compassion as an essential aspect of a spiritual path. While he warned against attachment, he advised that we treat others well and tend to their physical and spiritual needs as far as we are able. In the West, we often worry over religious teachers and churches who claim to follow Jesus' example but are not compassionate. This hypocrisy may seem like a Western phenomenon, but Aum Shinrikyo shows the extent to which all prophets and religious leaders are subject to such egregious misinterpretation that it turns their teaching upside down. Final thoughts?
I hate this man. He's probably... I know that I'm fascinated by what happened, but only in the light that may we learn from this and not repeat things like this. Same with any of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, he's a different breed of where he was just so smart, and out of all of the cults that I have ever researched or looked into, he is the only one that I think genuinely could have been successful in a very nefarious way. he had the resources, the smarts, the people,
the money.
He had
and
all...
the power, the position of power. That's definitely the really scary thing about it, is because like lots of cults, they have power over a niche group of people, right?
Yeah.
And they usually try to like isolate themselves away from the world, but he made a humongous corporation of people in society whose sole purpose is to find ways to destroy it.
And he personally didn't get attached to anything, which I think is a real staple for being successful in a cult, is that he did not form any attachments that were more than superficial, like with having, sex with some of his followers or whatever. And he wasn't attached to his ideas. He just was attached to a goal. And unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the world, he sped up a timeline that he set for himself, like they all do, because he panicked. And if that hadn't been the case, things could have been so much worse. The numbers that if he had been successful would have been like, it would have been ridiculously high compared to the deaths of 9/11 if he had been successful.
I mean,
that's how bad it was.
The sarin attacks, we're talking about a dozen people who actually died. I mean, thousands and thousands were injured, and but yes, it could have been substantially worse.
Well, and they wouldn't stop. If they didn't, get as dismantled as they are currently, ? Then I absolutely lost my train of thought. It crashed.
I think I get what you're saying, though, but I think the reason that it was halted is because they don't have him anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, so if he didn't, did he get caught? I'm unclear about that.
I don't even know. Is he still alive?
Is he dead? Is he alive? Did he get caught?
I think he's in prison if he's still alive.
Okay, but he did get caught.
Oh, definitely. He was arrested.
Okay. So that was my point then. He wouldn't stop. If he hadn't gotten caught and he did get away with that, there would be all the deaths from that incident, and then there would be all the deaths from the next incident he pulled, and the next... I don't think he would stop until he did get stopped or killed.
So to bring Shoko on home, he was sentenced to death in 2004. Mm-hmm. He ran out of appeals in 2011, but his execution was postponed so that he could, because of the arrests of other members, he was executed in 2018.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just found that too.
Yeah. So for people who need some closure, there you go.
Yeah. I also did find the name of the anime.
Oh, what was it?
It is Shotsu Sekai.
There you go. Should you want to get on a watch list?
I think it's the episodes are only a minute long. It's not supposed to be a full show. It's an advertisement campaign, I'm pretty sure.
And it's a series of episodes, huh?
Yeah, I don't know how many, though. I've only watched the first one because I was very uncomfortable and weirded out. And I was I should stop watching this. This is enough.
Yeah, maybe you stayed off the watch list.
I don't know, because I just looked it up again. So.
I know. I look up so many things in our research, man. Oy.
Yeah.
All right, bring us on home.
I
This is what you wanted to do at the beginning.
I know. But not the beginning of it. I hereby adjourn and declare closed this order of this secret meeting.
This meeting of
the secret meeting of the Order of Alchemical.
It's not secret.
It's not secret. This
Nikki has heard me say that so many times.
This meeting of
the
us. The alchemical actors until such a time as we can get together and do it again.
There it is. Finally. We got it out.
I'm so sorry.
So that's it for Aum Shinrikyo. We're going to go ahead over to China next for an episode on Falun Gong.
Oh.
Yeah. Who is not not so deadly. And in fact, in my opinion, I've said this a couple times at the closing of these episodes, but I do not believe Falun Gong is responsible for any of the things the Chinese government blames them for. But that's sort of what makes them so fascinating, that they're blamed for committing horrendous acts, but are probably fairly innocent.
Mm.
So, my name is Dr. Robert C. Thompson. I am your Supreme Hierophant, joined this day by our metallurgic prophet, Brie Littoral.
Bye, guys. Don't start or join a cult, please.
No, don't do that. And our naked truth, Nikki Hiller-Henderson.
And if you do join a cult, make sure it's a peaceful one.
Right, like this, like us. We mail each other bathwater, we podcast.
We can have sex with whoever we want.
Right, I make you isolate every few weeks into a closet with your clothes off. That's it. That's all I ask.
Exactly.
Just every few weeks.
A nice, peaceful cult,
right.
You know?
So, speaking of which, join our Patreon. Thanks for joining us. Catch us next time here on Occult Confessions.